What happens when you need to start protecting those vitals and the upper torso, but you gotta make sure you maintain some of that movement as well, because you kinda need your arms to be a little free whenever you've got all that armor on and you're fighting your monsters. Well, continuing on with Fantasy Fall and getting into our armor, let's talk about the Cuirass and the Pauldrons, among other things. So the Cuirass is really, that's your chest plate. There are many ornate versions of the Cuirass, but its overall shape is essentially just like a tank top. So it's key to remember though that you need to have a wide neck and you need to have open shoulders, so you have just a thinner strap that goes up over your trapezius muscle. And your base Cuirass is going to have two pieces. It's going to be a front plate and a back plate, just molded around the front of your torso as well as the back of your torso. Now, the difference between different Cuirass, I guess that's the plural, is how you attach it. So some have hinges on the top, on those shoulder straps that go up, so you can open it up almost like you're opening the sort of the back hatch of a car, or you can see some hinges on the side as if you're kind of opening your chest plate like a refrigerator door. Now, either of those are perfectly fine, and they're fun because they're low profile and they can have some really interesting detail. But in order to do that, you need to remember that whichever side you have your hinge on, the opposite side needs some sort of fastener, whether it's a belt or a snap. They need to have something that's going to secure the armor on top of your character. However, there are some armor plates that they're all molded as one. So there is a Cuirass that is one huge shape. However, it's going to be more decorative. It's going to be more like a celebratory armor and showy, because obviously it's going to move and it's not going to be as secure. Now, the placard kind of goes with the Cuirass. It's the articulated torso. So if you need to have a Cuirass that stops at your diaphragm, you can have these shapes that they overlap, and you're going to see this kind of concentric ring that happens a lot in any articulation in the armor. So that just goes for the lower portion of the torso, and that's called the placard. Now we get to the fancy fun shoulder portion, which is the pauldrons. So the shoulder protection is definitely going to vary based on what your character does and how much they need to move. So always remember to consider that whenever you are designing your pauldrons. And they are going to be something that attaches to that strap of the Cuirass, or it's going to have some sort of strap that's self-contained that is just over top of the shoulders that needs to allow for room for the shoulders to move. So you will sometimes see a gap between the chest plate, the Cuirass, and the pauldron itself. And that's, again, when it's important to know what's underneath your armor. So you can have it large and you can have a high top of your pauldron to protect part of the neck and the head. You can have it flare out. This is where you get a lot of creativity. One thing you can also do is have a low profile pauldron, which is just a little bit more of an actual cap that actually has these sleeves similar to the placard that go down the arm and allow for movement, because they all overlap and they're going to collapse as you move the arm up, move it forward, move it out. It's just going to allow for a little more articulation and for something that's maybe a little lighter. Now, the bessigeus are another thing that you can add to a pauldron. Some pauldrons have them attached. This is a piece of armor that's actually meant to protect the underarm, the armpit area, and it's just a small little circle, and typically it's a little bit lower on the arm, but your location can vary based on, of course, aesthetic, but whatever your character does. So if they're, jousting, it's going to have a much bigger bessigue. But if it's more ceremonial, or maybe it's the bessigue is there to attach a cloak, then they can be just a little bit higher up and maybe even attach to the pauldron itself. But really, whatever you want to use the bessigeus for, that's up to you, because they are a nice little visual interest piece that breaks up sort of the monotony and the pieces and adds a little bit of more complexity to the armor as a whole. So thank you guys for watching. Head over to my school to continue talking about Fantasy Fall and Monster Mayhem, and stay tuned for more armor. Thanks, everybody.